The North County Transit District Sprinter train first went into service in 2008. Prior to its recent shutdown, it connected 7,800 riders a day from Escondido to the Coaster commuter train in Oceanside. Joining me is North County Transit District's Executive Director, Matthew Tucker, and inewsource reporter, Brad Racino. Thank you both for being here and talking about this a little bit more. Mr. Tucker, when did you first become aware that there were problems with the brakes and the rotors for the sprinters?
Well, I believe it was in March, right around the time after the California Public Utilities Commission had come in and done an inspection. My staff immediately informed me that there was an issue with the rotors.
And before that, you hadn't, because it's something we'll talk about.
No idea.
Okay, and Brad, now you have some sources that say that it was out there that there was problems with these brakes, that people were aware. Tell me about your sources and what you found as far as your documents go.
Sure. Well, one of the sources is the lead engineer, Richard Burke, who had been working on the Sprinter for years and who has been with North County for many, many years. He had told us that, I believe it was 3 years ago, they identified this problem within a year after the Sprinter started, and they had begun working on a fix for it. Him, along with the contractor and subcontractor, had been kind of scrambling to get some information about how to fix this.
And just to be clear, he's a former employee.
Right.
Okay, he's a former employee. And Mr. Tuck, do you want to respond to that? That it seems like there was it was on a budget, it was sort of presented. There might be some issues.
No budget issues. I think Mr. Racino is correct in terms of Mr. Burke as well as our contractor knowing that there was an issue. As Mr. Burke has said on the record, that he didn't write anything down and he inquired about fixes informally. That sort of created the issue that no one else at a higher level was aware of the problem from both our contractor side and NCTD, which would have allowed us to easily intervene and make the appropriate decision to purchase the part.
We'll come back to that, but I do want to say, I think a lot of people would say, well, the Sprinter's only been on track literally for 5 years, and now there's these brake problems. Is that typical for a new train, or is this something that's inherently in a design flaw or something like that?
Well, you have to understand our train is a very unique train. There's not a lot of history worldwide to be able to tell you exactly how it's going to perform. This issue was a problem that was not expected. It required us to make a change to modify the vehicle from its original design. And this is something we could have easily afforded. It should have been easily done because no vehicle, whether it be rail or automobile vehicle, performs exactly as how the manufacturer had told you was going to perform. Let's
talk about the money for that, but first I do want to ask Brad, because I've heard you say before it's going to be about $400,000 in parts and more for the service to get that done, but we're going to come back to that because, Brad, part of the issue with this is there was a budget. You have a document of a budget that showed there was about $1.4 million in the fiscal year of 2012 for what? Tell us about that.
It was in the 2012 budget for fiscal year 2013 for the Sprinter vehicle drive overhaul, which would have included replacing the brakes and the rotors and other things as far as maintenance goes to the Sprinter.
Okay, but the issue is the coming fiscal year, this year, it was gone.
Right.
So, Mr. Tucker, that seems weird because you're like, oh, we didn't know about it, but there was this money in this budget. So, explain to us.
It's the difference between planned maintenance and something happening unexpected. As all of us described the rotor wear, this was premature, unexpected wear. So when the problem was identified 3 years ago, that required a different solution to sort of help you maintain the vehicle. You certainly, with a 2-year-old vehicle, would not have completed an overhaul for that vehicle after 2 years. You would have isolated what part needs to be fixed, and you would have addressed that part. So sort of what happens is that the issue related to the temporary fix and what the long-term maintenance need are sort of being conflated when they're two separate events.
Okay, I'm going to play writer advocate here. So the Transit District is a taxpayer-funded organization. It's going to cost more than $400,000 to fix this. Who's paying for it since it isn't in the budget?
Well, actually, we have more than the financial capacity to afford it. We've already worked with our contractors to place the order. And one of the things that we're working towards is when this whole episode is resolved and the Sprinter's back in operations, is to fully recover all of the costs that NCTD has paid as a matter of the Sprinter being shut down.
From the contractors?
From contractors.
Yeah. Okay. And one other point of contention, Brad, in your investigative report, you said during this time frame, which seemed a little suspicious, I have to say, is this money was there in the budget, then it was gone, and at the same time, about $800,000 was spent on studies, and tell us what that money was used for.
The money was allocated for studies. We don't know how much of it was actually spent. We know one study was completed. I don't know the others. Those studies were for various things that, according to multiple experts that we interviewed, do not belong in a capital budget. They were things like a public benefit study to better understand what transportation means for North County. There was a bus stop rationalization study, a document management study, things that, again, according to the people that we interviewed, do not belong in that budget.
Okay, so appearance-wise, it looks like, ooh, you took the money for the brakes and you put it over here. Is that what happened?
Well, I think a lot of this has to do with educational gap in terms of understanding transportation funding and accounting. We're talking about two separate things. Each year, NCTD undergoes an audit. We have 5 years of audits that show that we are fully compliant with every single expectation of GASB and any other accounting requirements that it's outlined. I think what needs to happen is we need to spend more time with Mr. Racino to educate him exactly on how transportation funding works so that he can understand that those items get identified that way based upon federal requirements.
And Brad, you're nodding.
I need to respond to this. We spoke with NCTD's own auditor who said that he hadn't looked at these line items. It wasn't his job to look at the line items. We also spoke to a senior officer within GASB, which is the organization that makes these standards, who I handed the budget to, and he said these do not belong in a budget.
Okay, so I'll have to point people to the website for the in-depth budget discussion you two are having, because we're almost out of time. But I did want to end with you, Mr. Tucker. When can riders expect the Sprinter to be back in service? When can they get their tickets? And I have a two-part to that. Will the ticket prices go up to help pay for the laps or the service?
No, absolutely. The prices won't go up. In fact, we're one of the unique agencies that actually lowered fares a couple of years ago. We're looking in the May timeframe to make an announcement about when the Sprinter will be restored, and we're working to make sure that our customers see the added value that we're going to provide to them as a matter of the time that we've had with the Sprinter being offline.
All right. Unfortunately, we are out of time. A lot more on our website. Matthew Tucker and Brad Racino, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you.